Alright folks, hello and welcome to another video. This is the playthrough of Braid. I believe this is, actually I have no idea what part this is, but really that doesn't matter because I'm here to talk about something a bit bigger than that. I'm actually not going to be using I'm not going to be commentating about any of the game footage because, to be entirely honest, I haven't recorded it yet. I just have something in my mind and I need to get it out as soon as possible because I don't want to lose the moment, if you get what I'm trying to say. So I haven't recorded the footage yet. This isn't footage commentary. Hopefully you'll forgive that, and hopefully you'll listen to what I have to say, because in my mind right now, what I have to say is the most important thing I've said in a video thus far. This is actually, in terms of recording, this will be the 100th video, but I will be releasing after the 100th video, because that, it's gotta fall into place. But 100th video be damned, I have to record this right now, regardless of the footage I have or don't have, so please listen, and I am very mad. I've been on a nostalgia binge for like the past 2 weeks of the summer, and I've taken that time that I've been sort of nostalgia binging to rewatch a machinima show that you may have heard of called The Elite World. Now, in its time, and I believe it was released around 2009, the whole thing went down like 2007, 2008, 2009. The show was a big deal. As far as I can remember, it was like the thing in terms of machinima. It was up there. It was a Counter-Strike machinima about terrorists and counter-terrorists living in a house, sort of like a sitcom parody sort of thing going on, where they were forced to do challenges against each other. And it was a really fun show. I was recently watching on this little binge I've been going on, and I went on their website to see what the creators of this were doing, what they were up to, because after the Elite World I sort of like settled down, I kind of like got distracted from machinima and I stopped watching it. And they stopped creating content, and they are Smoothview Films. The creators are on sort of an indefinite hiatus. That's what it says on their website. And I went and looked up, I like scouted through the page because I wanted to learn more, and I've been through their website before, I'd seen it, but it was just like for old time's sake. I went by and I looked through everything that was there, and I found that Valve refused to give them like merchandising rights. You know how Bungie allowed Rooster Teeth to sell their Red vs. Blue DVDs and Red vs. Blue t-shirts, and create a lot of like Halo merchandise that wasn't officially didn't give any money to Bungie. Valve refused these guys the right to do that, and that really got me mad. And this is going to tie into a whole lot of different things. I'm going to go in a lot of directions with this, but it got me mad elementarily because now these people, like, I checked their site and I went through their stuff, and now they're doing who knows what and who knows where, and I'm happy for them. If they're happy, I'm happy, but these people could have been, like, if you look at them comparatively, I would say personally that they are up there in terms of machinima, in terms of the dedication they've put in and the content that they've put out, just how serious and like how amazingly well done it is. It's up there with Red vs. Blue. Like, they're battling for first place in my mind. That's how I would put it. And this is Valve's fault. I imagine that if Valve had given them the rights to publish their stuff and get money for it, for their hard work, for the sacrifice that they put into that, because these guys had day jobs other than creating this machinima. When they weren't creating this machinima, they were making money like for themselves in jobs related, well, just normal day jobs. Machinima making wasn't a thing that they went home, or that they woke up in the morning, I mean, and they did. It was like, they gave up like free time, and they sacrificed time and effort, and they just gave a lot to make this happen. And I think that had they been given, like, if you put them next to Rooster Teeth was given the rights to sell merchandise. And from that they branched out into different directions, and they created sort of like a media empire in terms of video games. That's a bit of an overstatement, but Rooster Teeth is up there, and it could be easily said without fearing overstatement or exaggeration, that Rooster Teeth is probably even above machinima in terms of the biggest or like largest content creator in terms of like quality content creator in terms of video games on the internet right now. And that's no small feat, and I imagine that had Smoothview Films been given that right, they would have been up there too. Instead, their path took a completely different direction, and now they're doing God knows what, who knows where, when they could have been easily, with their talent, with what they've created, the most, or like second to the most. Well, they could have been way up there. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm sitting here, and some of you guys might think that it's hard to do commentary on video games. That shit is nothing. Nothing compared to what these people do. And of course, you guys might be thinking that there are cops, and there are firefighters, and there are public servicemen who are more deserving of mention in video commentary. But in this case, it's not a fair comparison. Because I'm not even going to go into because I'm not here to talk about firemen and servicemen and cops, because I know what they're doing is great. I'm here to talk about the missed opportunities and the potential that simply isn't being, I guess, used by the game industry. Once the game industry realizes, once developers realize that the community is one of the biggest parts, and that's sort of obvious, that goes without saying, you would think, but if Bungie were to go down, for whatever reasons, for, say, economic reasons, Bungie were all of a sudden to close its doors, people would be grieving because, not only because they've grown such an attachment to the games, but because of the community and the connection that Bungie has made with the community. Their, community interaction is really good, as is Valve's, Valve's now. I want to say Valve's communication with the people right now, as I see it. I mean, I'm no expert, but I know people from, well, I don't really know them personally, but I can list off people from Valve because I know them. Robin Walker, Gabe Newell. These are community figures who make themselves known. Notch, he's out there. He's on Twitter. He's talking with his fans. So if Mojang or Bungie was to go down, people would grieve not only because the games were going down, but also because of the opportunities that they've missed. It's sort of or not opportunities that they've missed, what am I talking about? Because of the memories that they had that are sort of being thrown under the rug now that are over. If a studio like Pandemic goes down, and bless them, I love Pandemic, their games were fantastic, terribly underrated in my opinion, but when they go down, and people grieve them because of their games. I hear people talking about oh, it's so sad that Pandemic went down because I loved Saboteur and I loved Battlefront, but nobody says that because they had a great time communicating with Pandemic and they know the developers. That just doesn't happen. And once developers really realize that interaction with the community is the key, the influence of video games will grow tenfold. Machinima wouldn't have existed had game developers not realized that this was a thriving thing, that this was a community effort, that the developers also needed to participate in. That's why Bungie's Machinima tools, Forge, I forget what the tool is called, Replay or something like that, I really don't remember. It's been a long time since I've brushed up on my Halo anything. But the tools that have been given for the community to create Machinima, it's sort of like a developer's thank you. And developers really need to do more of this. And I feel like I'm asking too much of the developers, but it's really something that should be obvious. It should be second nature by now, where developers should think, video games, let me branch off for a second. Video games give, through Machinima and things like that, the opportunity for the people, the community, to create content just as much as the video game is giving them content. No other medium, well actually, I'm not going to make blanket statements like that, but few other mediums that are on the top of my head right now. You can't take a book and then take the book apart and rearrange it and release it as your own. Say, here's my independent creation. You can't take a movie and split it apart. Sure, you can make a nice independent film using old samples and old video elements and say, here's my little independent film, but you can take a game and you can use its engine to create something new, to tell stories. You can't do that as freely with film or with books as you can with video games. You can take paintings and you can recreate them, certainly. You can write fan fiction for books, but you can't take the books. It's a weird distinction to make. Video games make it so easy for the community to get involved, because it's this world through which content creators can create their own content. And developers are pretty much handing that to us. And until developers really begin supporting this more heavily than they are now, and right now, at this point in time, I think it's better than it was before, than it was in 2009. But the fact that Smooth Few Films went down the way it did, and that we now don't know the fate of these brilliant people who, in my opinion, did a great favor, and would they have been successful? Would Valve have backed them? Would have been a huge asset to the online community, are now God knows where doing God knows what. That's just upsetting. And I think, this is a prediction of mine, that sometime in the future, I would say 20 years down the road, a video game developer will go like the ultimate way, and they'll go beyond developer diaries, like video diaries and stuff, and they'll like get a camera crew in their offices, and they'll film what they're doing, and they'll be like literally interacting with the community. Like they might be live streaming or something like that. I don't know, but that is a prediction of mine. Someday, a video game developer will take it to the extreme, and they will become like the super beloved developer. It's a weird prediction to make, and it doesn't seem logical in terms of business and reality, but that's a prediction I'm going to make, and I'm going to hold on to that. And don't nobody try to dissuade me, because that is something I'm going to hold on to for a long time, and I'm going to hope that that happens. On another note, while I'm talking about the game development industry, the fact that it's so cold, recently, this is what pushed me over the edge. Recently there was a thread on a forum that I follow about a person looking to make a game, and of course nothing was probably going to come of that, but there was a video posted up that basically outlined it was about this young, ambitious developer and this old, like, grizzled veteran who was all like, no, you shouldn't join the industry because there are long work hours and it's terrible and you shouldn't do it and your ambition means nothing here. That is ridiculous. When an industry gets to a state where they're not looking for fresh, like, new ideas, and of course, you hear it everywhere, the video game industry is not looking for idea people, they're looking for people to do things, but when the video game industry so callously pushes people back, and they're like, we don't need rookies, we need people who know what they're doing, we don't want ideas, this is a business, that is ridiculous. And that's why I try to support independent gaming so much, because while I love bigger titles, I loved Star Wars Battlefront, and it was a huge title for LucasArts and Pandemic. While I like games like that, Battlefield, I love it. Battlefield Heroes was an amazing game, in my opinion. It was. There is sort of... The independent games give an opportunity for people to not look at it as a business, to go beyond that and think, this isn't just a business, this is something where we are looking for idea people. And if you have the right talent, we will accept you. It's not like... Because this video specifically, and this is sort of what pisses me off, instead of saying, you should learn a talent if you really want to be a part of this, it's sort of like, you are talentless, your ideas mean nothing here, get out of here. That just bothers me, and I'm oversimplifying things a tiny bit, but something about the industry and its attitude towards developers just bothers me. The whole thing with Team Bondi, where they're all talking about the long work hours and the terrible conditions. Maybe we wouldn't have to scare away young, ambitious developers if we didn't have conditions like this. Maybe this should be more vehemently argued against. Maybe more attention should be taken to this. These are bad working conditions just like any other bad working conditions. Because it's video games doesn't mean that this is unlike bad working conditions in any other business. It is the same exact thing, and the fact that nobody's paying attention to this, and that more isn't being done about this, and that instead of working to fix the problems of the industry, we're shooing away the people who would be affected by it, that is a bad sign, in my opinion. In summation, I mean, everything may have come out as a sort of a jarbled mess, because I was trying to get myself to write this all down, but I couldn't. I'm just not good at writing myself scripts for this type of stuff, and I didn't really want to try. And it would be much more focused and much more streamlined had I written this down and said it before, but this was just something I needed to get off my chest. I needed to put out into a video. The community really needs to be a bigger part of gaming, and we really need to pay attention to the talent that's out there. Smooth Few Films, in my opinion, and some of you may not have the nostalgia goggles I have on, and you might be thinking, well, it's alright, it's just like any other nostalgia. Jeez, I'm just tripping over words now. It's just like any other machinima. I disagree. The potential that the community has to affect video games is limitless. And the fact that developers aren't tapping into this, the fact that the industry is pushing these people away, actively pushing these people away, Smooth View Films could have been a huge... I wish I could have seen like an alternate future and seen what would have happened. I can't do that. But if Smooth View Films was successful, and Valve allowed them to sell videos and they actually made money and turned it into a job, I imagine they would be enormously successful and putting out more and more video game content that not only would have elevated the stance of the industry, it just would have been enormously helpful for the online community. I see Rooster Teeth as a benefit for video games, not only because it's something to pass the time, because it's comedy, and because we all need that in our lives, because laughter is fucking fantastic, but because people who may not have been interested in video games may look at a Rooster Teeth video, and say, one of their shorts, for example, and say, wow, these guys are really funny, let me see what other content they have. They might look at their video game stuff. They might think, wow, this is a great platform for creating and telling stories. Who knew? The possibilities are endless, and of course that's like 1 out of a million type of thing, but the impact that these people could have had on the online community, and the fact that Valve didn't tap into this and actively refused to tap into a community that was ready to sacrifice its time and its soul and put effort into this. Keep in mind, I didn't mention this, and for those of you who don't know, this machinima, the Elite World, was made in Counter-Strike, which means that these people went and filmed this with the HUD on, the heads-up display. I keep saying HUD, but heads-up display. Then they cut footage out so that it wouldn't include the gun, and then they put that all together. They made music for it. There is a soundtrack to this machine. It's just astounding the work that they put into this, and how little they got out of it as a result. And they've got dedicated fans and such. But the video game industry really needs to pay more attention to the community and to what's going on. And I talk a lot about the video game industry, and I'm going to try easing it down a tiny bit in my next video or so. But it's just something I needed to get off my chest while I had the time. So, I guess thank you very much for watching. I hope you got something out of this, and have a nice day.